Hi, I'm Cari Kelemen. Today I have with me Bill Finley, also known as Wild Bill for America. And he had something interesting happen to him over the weekend. Bill, judging on the reactions from my Twitter feed, there's a lot of Canadians and Americans that want to ask you this. What the heck? Like, what? What happened? What happened to you? Tell
What
me.
the heck, eh?
I know. Hey, yeah, there you go.
I was invited to Calgary, Alberta, Canada to speak at an anti-Sharia law rally, and it created quite a brouhaha. There was a bunch of left-wing extremists that were just hopping mad, and they were trying to get the Canadian government to block me from coming into Canada. Well, I went up there, and when I arrived at the airport, I was directed to security, and they went through my luggage, of course, and my iPad was right there with the text of my speech that I was going to give. The speech was on the abuse of women and children under Sharia law, and there are some serious problems under Sharia law. And believe it or not, the speech was also about the importance of freedom of speech. And one of the lines in the speech was, I am here to speak to the Canadians who believe that every citizen should have the right to speak freely without being dragged off by the authorities.
Oh my gosh, that was in your speech.
But I didn't get to give the speech because I was dragged off by the authorities.
Oh my gosh, a little ironic there. Oh my gosh, so you're in Calgary and they send you to security and they take your iPad and start reading it?
Yeah, I said that this is the speech that I'm going to give tomorrow, and I had nothing to hide. You know, I'm a 20-year veteran law enforcement officer standing up for women and children and freedom of speech, and I'm talking to North American law enforcement officers.
Yes, there you go. You're smart, because when Canadians want to be included, they call themselves North Americans. So you're very smart to use that term. Okay, so wait. Don't they normally ask you when you show up, do they ask you, are you here for business or pleasure?
Yep.
And you said business.
No, I said pleasure.
Okay.
I was planning on taking great pleasure in pushing back against Islam.
Right. But how did you get from I'm a tourist, I'm here, to let us see your iPad? How did that happen?
My iPad was laying on top of my pants in my suitcase, and they just turned it on. I didn't have it password protected.
Yeah, was your name? Do you think your name was on a list?
The actions of these officers make me strongly suspect that I was targeted.
Okay.
They, as a 20-year veteran law enforcement officer, I know proper police procedures, and these guys weren't they were just out of control. Not out of control. They were painfully polite, but it's clear that they were going to get me for something, anything, and to inflict maximum intimidation while being polite. Threatened to charge me with an offense that could put me in prison for 2 years. Blah blah blah. Well, anyway, they took me into custody and told me that they were holding me for smuggling. And I was.
I don't think I've heard that word since the 70s.
They're taking me for smuggling hate speech on my iPad.
Do they not understand the internet? How do you smuggle?
Yeah. So anyway, I am now Smuggler Bill.
Oh.
I was smuggling a note to myself. I had written
notes like a Comey note to yourself
on my iPad. Notes.
Memo. It was a memo.
Yeah, and nobody else was going to see this but me. So I'm thinking, are they accusing me of committing a hate speech offense against myself? It was pretty silly.
That's okay. That's incredible. So the name of the group was the group that was there that were angry about your coming. Was there a name? Was there an organization that they identified with? Do you know who they were?
No, this was just individual nasty leftists who just hate everything about conservative Christian beliefs and politics and so on. And there's no individual group that I'm aware of.
Okay, but they did show up at the rally that you never made.
I never made it to the rally. I never made it out of the airport.
I cannot I cannot believe this. This has people shocked. I mean, people's jaw drops open when I tell them this story. So
Yeah.
you never made it out of Calgary Airport. You were detained by security. And where did they take you?
Detained by Canadian law enforcement officers.
Canadian law enforcement officers. They took you to a room. Did they interrogate you? What happened?
I was interrogated for hours.
You're kidding.
They put me on the phone to call a lawyer. They called the U.S. consulate and advised them, quote, that they had arrested a foreign national, and they left me sitting on a hard steel chair under guard for 7.5 hours.
Oh my gosh. What time of day did you get there? Was it Saturday or Friday? When was this?
I arrived at the airport at 9:41 p.m. and I'd been traveling for over 12 hours.
On Friday?
From Daytona Beach on the 23rd.
Okay.
And and so they kept me there until probably 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Decided that when they finally come out to say, we've decided not to charge you. Well, I wasn't surprised by that. I mean, what kind of criminal charge can there possibly be for writing yourself a personal note on your iPad? And so I was taken for the purpose, I'm sure, of intimidation. To use me as an example,
oh my gosh,
others who may want to take a stand in Canada for freedom of speech and to expose the atrocities of Islam that is coming down on the heads of the Canadian people.
Yeah.
The Canadian government, that's the Canadian government that is Islamophobic. They're too afraid of Islam to speak out against it and to take appropriate action to protect their citizens.
Right. Now, you brought up an important word there, Islamophobic. I understand that word was chosen in their motion, not a law, but a motion called M103 that says we need to condemn Islamophobia, and yet they did not define what Islamophobia meant. So I'm assuming that based on how they treated you, that they are saying any criticism, even if it's valid, of Islam is not permitted in Canada?
Islam is having a huge influence in liberal governments. And generally speaking, Islamic blasphemy laws is basically what it is. Is that anybody who speaks or writes anything that could possibly be construed as insulting to the Prophet or Islam or the Quran should face criminal penalties. In Pakistan, it's a death penalty. And the United Nations is pushing hard to get these laws passed worldwide. You know why? Because Islam is scared to death of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech works. And where freedom is strong, Islam cannot survive. So they have to silence us. They have to silence the right. They have to silence anybody who dares to expose them because they can't stand up to the facts. Islam cannot justify its policies and practices in any way.
Right.
So they have to use intimidation and these jackboot tactics to silence all their critics. And think about this. The Canadian law enforcement officers were essentially enforcing Sharia law.
Yes.
Down on this infidel who blasphemed Islam. I know that.
Well, you didn't get a chance to yet. They just read that you were going to on your iPad.
Yeah, they arrested me for hate speech that I had not spoken.
Oh my God. This is stunning. This is absolutely stunning.
No,
I don't think that the Canadians that understood. Now, this motion M103 passed on March 23rd. I'm not sure that most Canadians actually understood what took place there.
This illustrates the dangers of these hate speech laws, which are really nothing but politically correct hammers with which to beat freedom into the ground.
Yeah.
This shows how dangerous they are. They're setting a precedent that any person who walks through the streets of Canada carrying a book by Brigitte Gabriel or Pamela Geller would be subject to arrest. And as I read the statute, 2 years in prison.
Oh so, my! This is akin to book burning. This is thought police.
Yeah. I hate to put it like that. You know, I have great respect for law enforcement officers, but what these guys did was disgraceful. And the Canadian government is behaving disgracefully in failing its duty to protect its citizens.
Yeah,
and it's people like me and the Worldwide Coalition Against Islam that are warning people, that are sounding the alarm that Canada has got some bad things coming down on their heads. And I'm pleased that the Canadian citizens are just lighting up. They are up in arms. I seem to have 1 million new Canadian friends up there since yesterday. So, Canada, I love you. This is not against you. This is against a left-wing liberal government that is selling your country out by submitting to Sharia law.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what I understand about this M103 is that it set into place a 240-day kind of a discovery period by a committee called the Systemic Racism and Religious Discrimination Committee, and they have two purposes. Number one is to develop a whole-of-government approach to reducing or eliminating Islamophobia, again, which they did not define. And the second is to collect data to contextualize hate crime reports. I have a feeling, Bill, that you were one of their data that they were collecting on. You were, like you said, somebody they were going to make an example of.
Well, if they want to stop Islamophobia, they need to stop Islam from butchering people.
Absolutely. Okay, so you were headed to the rally in Calgary. Any reports on how that rally went without your getting there?
No. I've been too busy digging out a ton of emails to check and see how the rally went. Apparently, there were no problems, or it would have been on the news.
Yeah.
But the guys that did the rally, they're ready to fight. They're our liaison up in Canada. I'm investigating legal options both here in the U.S. and in Canada. We need to make an issue out of this.
Yes.
It shows how silly and dangerous these hate speech laws are, and now is the time for everybody in Canada and the USA to step up and use this incident to push back against these ridiculous laws.
Absolutely ridiculous. So legally, how are you left? Do you have a court date or anything like that?
There were no charges.
Okay.
They weren't that stupid. But they did seize my iPad and said that they're sending it to Ottawa for a forensic investigation.
No.
Yeah, and you know, I in my Wild Bill for America videos, I take on the militant homosexuals and I challenge Islam. Now, I don't pull any punches, so they're going to have a heyday. There are 1,000 Wild Bill for America video scripts on that iPad. And you understand they have this Human Rights Commission up there that's LGBTQ, PDW, whatever. And they have the authority to fine people $5,000 if they offend the homosexual movement. So, and then they came up with a new threat, Cari. They said then they're sending it to the taxing authorities to determine what kind of tariff they should put on the smuggled goods.
Okay, so again, the hate speech that was never spoken is going to get taxed now?
Yeah, I took that to be a threat to harm me financially. The government is going to try to hit me with some kind of tax on my words that I wrote to myself. It was basically intimidation tactics all the way. See, this is the problem with Islam, is that we can't talk about the problem with Islam. One of the lines in my speech was, a silent Canadian is a defeated Canadian. We've got the bad guys trying to intimidate us into being timidly silent.
Yes.
And unfortunately, too many on the right are timidly silent, or they are ignorantly silent. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So now is the time for us to stand up and be as loud as we possibly can while they're trying to keep us quiet.
Oh.
This is the time to strike.
Absolutely. And you know what? This can actually be a blessing in disguise, because this is raising awareness like nothing I've seen lately. People are like, I can't undersell this. They're shocked at hearing this news that an American speaker who was invited to speak didn't even make it out of the airport and had his iPad confiscated and charged, or at least accused of smuggling hate speech. This is just absolutely, people were like, what is this, North Korea? I mean, this is just, does not sound like to our friendly neighbor to the north, Canada. It doesn't sound like them at all.
I am now the world's #1 smuggler of hate speech. Smuggler Bill at your service.
Smuggler Bill, who never got to speak your speech. I just can't wrap my head around it. Bill, what should those listening that want to do something with this information, if this is making their blood boil like it is mine, what would you suggest they do?
Right now, we need to get the word out. I did 2 videos. Fortunately, I gave this speech 2 weeks earlier in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And I just posted it on my Wild Bill for America YouTube site.
Excellent.
And that was called Wild Bill's Anti-Hate Hate Speech. So capture that one. Okay. That is the speech that the law enforcement officers read the text of and decided that it was an arrestable offense. Okay. So watch that video. It's 22 minutes, and then you can decide for yourselves if I was committing hate speech. And another video that I just did today to explain what happened, that's called Smuggler Bill's Canadian Blues. So grab those 2 videos and spread them out to as many people as you can, especially news media and decent political leaders.
Yes.
They need to get on this too.
Yes.
The ones that truly care and are willing to do something about it. So right now, getting the word out is very important. Now, this is not over by a long shot. There may well be a legal battle coming up.
I kind of hope there is.
I do too. We need to we need to really put them in a vice and do it to them. So I will be relying very heavily on my friends and supporters should this happen. Okay. Now, I believe Tom Trento of the United West may be trying to set up some kind of a funding account, but right now I have a Christian fellowship group. It's called Outlaws Chapel.
You fit right in.
Yeah. outlawschapel.com. There is a donate button there. If people want to begin setting up the fund to take these people on, that would be the place to get started.
Okay, excellent. Well, I will put the link to the Florida video in the description under this video, and the link to the chapel, where to donate. Yeah.
This we don't get opportunities like this very. It's not often that the government gets this stupid. We now have to jump on this and take full advantage of it.
You're right.
When the enemy makes a mistake, we use that mistake.
Absolutely, and they did. They stepped in it so big time. This is just not even kind of cool. People are shocked, and I think that initial shock is going to slowly turn to anger. I know with me it is. I have relatives in Alberta, and this is just absolute. You laugh because you don't know how else to respond at first. I was so incredulous when I heard about it. I just was like, what? In Canada?
I spent 20 years protecting family as a law enforcement officer. These hate speech laws, the way they are generally written, it gives the government authority to seize people's children if they believe that hate speech is being promoted in the home.
Oh my gosh.
This is a serious threat to the families of Canada and the USA.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, if you care about your children as well as your communities, you better get on this.
Yeah.
The jackboots are coming.
Yeah.
And a lot of law enforcement officers have to be deeply concerned about this too, because cops tend to be a conservative bunch.
Yeah, they do.
They need to step up too. Are you listening to me out there, men and women who wear the badge? You see this coming. This is coming down on you too, and you need to step up and speak out as well. Contact me, at outlawschapel.com or on my YouTube channel, whatever. I will keep your communications confidential. Us cops, we need to continue in our duties to uphold and defend our country's constitution and the rights of the citizens. So let's not let this go any further.
I think you're absolutely right. Well, gosh, Bill, I'm sorry this happened, but in a way I'm a little bit glad it happened, because we're having this conversation, and it's a conversation that needs to happen. Both sides of the border, all over the world, people need to be talking about this. So I appreciate your time today. Sorry it happened, but we'll keep in touch, and if there's any updates, let us know, because I know the people who've responded on Twitter are very, very interested in this story, what happened to you, and how to take action. So very interested.
I will do some more videos on ways to take action, and I'll keep everybody apprised of the situation.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for your time today. We're glad you're back in the USA safely. And next time, get that password on your iPad.
If it was password protected, we may not have this. opportunity. So
That, you know,
all
that's
right.
true. That's true. Again, thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you for what you do.
Absolutely. Bye.